I thought I knew what betrayal looked like, until my 12-year-old grandson handed me his tablet with trembling fingers. I could hear his breathing. Even the old clock on the wall felt louder. "Grandma, I need to show you something. It's about Uncle David." Tommy had been staying with me while his parents work side through what everyone politely called marital difficulties. His quiet presence had been a comfort. At 72, silence can feel like a second person living with you. I pressed play. There he was, David, my son-in-law, using my house key at 2:17 a.m. Then the camera caught something that made my stomach drop, my bedroom door, and my own sleeping silhouette on the bed. He pushed the door open and walked right up beside me. His phone screen lit my face. He checked if I moved, if I breathed. Then he turned away and began tearing through my house. I watched him unzip my purse, photograph my credit cards, open my mail, capture my bank statements, sit at my computer like it belonged to him. 23 minutes. 23 minutes of my daughter's husband treating my home, my body, my safety, as if none of it mattered. A heat crawled up my neck. Shame, fear. A kind of loneliness I hadn't felt since my husband died. I handed the tablet back to Tommy, my hands steadier than they should have been. The question wasn't why he did it. I'd known, deep down. The real question was what I was going to do now. 3 years ago, I thought giving David emergency access to my house was a sign of trust, a gesture that said, "You're family now." I was such a fool. When my daughter Sarah married him, David seemed like the responsible one. He had opinions about money, about investments, about planning for the future. He'd lean forward at dinner tables, hands folded, explaining compound interest like he was sharing state secrets. I found his confidence reassuring. After 6 years of handling everything alone since my husband's death, the idea of family support felt like a gift. The first time Sarah suggested I let David help with my finances, I hesitated for exactly 30 seconds. "Mom, you should really let David help you with your online banking. He has a degree in business, and you've been managing everything by yourself for so long." I handed over my passwords because saying no felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that at 72, I was too old to keep up with a changing world. Within weeks, my paper statements stopped arriving. David explained this cheerfully. Everything was digital now, more secure, better for the environment. But secure for whom? I began to wonder about that, though I kept the thought to myself. The requests for money started small and wrapped in kindness. David would perch on my kitchen counter like he lived there, smiling when he asked for favors. $200 because his paycheck was delayed. $300 for car repairs. $500 for Sarah's birthday surprise. Each favor got a little bigger, a little more urgent. The amounts climbed steadily, like a tide I didn't notice until my feet were wet. When I asked about repayment, David's face would scrunch with practiced hurt. "We're family, Mom. We don't keep score with family, but someone was keeping score, and I wasn't the one holding the calculator." 6 months into this arrangement, I tried logging into my own bank account. Password incorrect. I tried my backup password. Account locked. The sick feeling in my stomach told me this wasn't a technical error. When I called David about the locked account, his explanation came smoothly. "Oh, that's my fault. I updated the security settings. You were using your maiden name for everything. Way too easy to hack these days." He reset everything for me. New passwords I couldn't remember. New security questions based on information he'd gathered during our family dinners. New phone number for alerts. His phone number. My statements started coming to my mailbox again, but they looked different, thinner somehow. The checking account balance felt lower than I remembered, though David always had reasonable explanations. Insurance payments had increased. Charity donations I'd supposedly authorized. Bank fees that seemed higher than before. I started keeping a notebook, small spiral-bound thing hidden in my kitchen drawer. Pencil marks tracking what went out and what came in. The numbers didn't match David's cheerful explanations, but when I mentioned discrepancies, his patience wore thin quickly. "You're getting confused again, Mom. Lucky I'm here to help sort this out." That word, confused, became his favorite weapon. He wielded it like a key that unlocked something cold in my chest. A fear that maybe I was losing more than money. Maybe I was losing my mind. Sarah unwittingly became his accomplice. She'd stand in my doorway, arms crossed, watching me search through drawers for items that had mysteriously disappeared. "Mom, what are you looking for?" "My pearl earrings, the ones from your grandmother." "Mom, you gave those to me last month, remember? You said you wanted me to have something of Dad's family." I had no memory of this conversation, none whatsoever, but Sarah nodded with such certainty, and David agreed so readily that I began to doubt the sharpness of my own recollections. The gaslighting was systematic and effective. When my anniversary ring vanished from my jewelry box, David suggested I'd moved it for safekeeping and forgotten where. When strange sounds woke me at night, soft footsteps, careful movements through my house, David assured me old houses made settling noises. But I knew the difference between wood creaking and someone walking deliberately across hardwood floors. I knew the sound of my cabinet doors opening and closing. I knew when my purse had been moved from where I'd left it. I started sleeping lighter. Every sound downstairs made my heart race. In the mornings, evidence would be everywhere if I knew how to look for it. My checkbook turned a different way in the drawer. Mail sorted into different piles. My laptop moved from the counter to the table. 3 months ago, I woke at 3 a.m. to the electronic chime of my computer booting up. Someone was downstairs, typing on my keyboard. 20 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close, a car engine starting in my driveway. I waited another hour before investigating. My laptop screen showed my bank account. A transfer screen was still open. $800 moved from savings to checking. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. I hadn't authorized any transfer. I'd been asleep in my bed while someone else managed my financial life from my kitchen table. The next morning, I called the bank's fraud line. The customer service representative was polite but unhelpful. "Ma'am, that transfer was initiated from your registered device using your login credentials. Everything appears legitimate on our end." But I was sleeping. Someone else made that transfer. "Do you live with anyone who might have access to your computer?" I paused. Did I live with David? No. But had I given him access to my house, my passwords, my trust? Yes. "My son-in-law has a key. Has he been given permission to access your accounts?" The question hung in my dark kitchen. When did help become theft? When did family assistance become financial abuse? When did trust become stupidity? I didn't know anymore. 3 weeks ago, I decided to change my locks. When I told David, his voice dropped all pretense of friendliness. "Mom, that doesn't make sense. We're family. I should have access in case something happens to you." "I need to feel safe in my house, David." "Oh, you're being paranoid. This kind of behavior is exactly why Sarah and I are worried about you living alone." Living alone. He said it like a threat he could take away, like a privilege I might lose if I didn't cooperate. I changed the locks anyway. New deadbolts, new door handles, new sense of security. For one night, I slept peacefully. Then I found fresh scratches around my back door lock. Someone had tried to force entry. My neighbor mentioned seeing David's car in my driveway at midnight. But I wasn't confused about the timeline of theft documented in my notebook. I wasn't confused about waking up to my laptop glowing with someone else's work. I wasn't confused about the sick feeling in my stomach every time I tried to sleep. I just didn't have proof. But a tiny part of me wasn't ready to surrender. Some stubborn core of dignity that refused to be gaslit into submission. Until Tommy handed me that tablet. Until I watched my son-in-law check if I was breathing before systematically robbing me blind. Then everything changed. After seeing that video, everything clicked into place. All those strange mornings when my house felt different. All those missing things I'd blamed on my aging mind. He'd been coming for months. It started with small items that made me question myself. My reading glasses moved from nightstand to kitchen counter. My favorite pen vanished from the junk drawer. Little displacements that felt like early dementia rather than evidence of intrusion. Then my jewelry started disappearing. My pearl earrings went first, the ones my mother gave me for my wedding day. I searched every room, every drawer. When I mentioned the missing earrings to Sarah, she exchanged that look with David. "You probably put them somewhere safe and forgot," she said gently. "You know how you are with your jewelry." But I knew exactly where those earrings belonged. Third compartment in my jewelry chest, wrapped in tissue paper. I'd stored them the same way for 20 years. A month later, my anniversary ring vanished. The sapphire ring from my 25th anniversary. This time, I called David directly. "I think someone's been in my house. My anniversary ring is missing." His response came too quickly. "Mom, when's the last time you remember wearing it?" "I don't wear it anymore. It stays in my jewelry box." "Maybe you moved it for safekeeping." Sometimes we do things and forget when we're stressed. Stressed. Another word like confused. Another gentle way to suggest my mind was failing, but something hardened inside me. I called my insurance company and documented every missing item. Pearl earrings, $400. Anniversary ring, $1,200. A gold bracelet, $300. $1,700 worth of jewelry. Gone. That afternoon, I checked my bank account online. I found a cash withdrawal for $500, dated the same day my ring disappeared. The location was near downtown pawn shops. I called the bank immediately. "Can you tell me more about this withdrawal?" "That was an ATM transaction, ma'am, made at 11:47 p.m. on March 15th, 11:47 at night. I was asleep by 9 every night. Had been for 20 years. Someone else had used my card. Someone who knew my PIN." 3 more suspicious withdrawals appeared over the next month. Always late at night. Always round numbers. $200, $350, $175. Each time I confronted David about missing money, his explanations became sharper. "You probably made those withdrawals and forgot. Check your purse. You might have spent cash somewhere." "Mom, these memory issues are getting worse. We really need to talk about getting you professional help." The suggestion felt like a threat, but I started keeping my purse in my bedroom, checking my wallet before sleep, and again each morning. Cash continued to disappear. My sleep became fractured. Every sound downstairs sent adrenaline through my system. Some sounds were different now, deliberate. The soft click of cabinet doors, the whisper of papers being moved, careful footsteps on hardwood. I'd lie frozen in bed, listening to someone move through my life. In the morning, evidence would be everywhere. My checkbook shifted, mail sorted differently. My laptop moved from counter to table. I started marking things, tiny pencil dots on envelopes, specific angles for my coffee cup. Every morning brought small violations. Items moved just enough to let me know someone had been there. 6 weeks ago, I woke at 3 a.m. to my computer booting up downstairs. The electronic chime echoed through the house. I lay motionless, listening to typing on my keyboard. 20 minutes later, the front door opened and closed. A car engine started and pulled away. I waited another hour before investigating. My laptop showed my bank account, A transfer screen was open. $800 moved from savings to checking. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. Someone had used my computer while I slept upstairs. When I called the bank's emergency line, the representative was unhelpful. "Ma'am, that transfer was initiated from your registered device using correct credentials. Everything appears legitimate, but I was asleep. Someone else accessed my account." "Do you live with anyone who might have access to your computer?" "I didn't live with David, but I'd given him keys. I'd shared passwords." "My son-in-law has a house key. Has he been given permission to access your financial accounts?" I couldn't answer that question. The boundaries had blurred so gradually. 3 weeks ago, I told David I was changing my locks. His reaction revealed everything. "Why would you do that? What if there's an emergency?" "I'll give a spare key to my neighbor, Mrs. Chen." "That doesn't make sense. We're family. I should have access in case something happens to you." His voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. "I need to feel safe in my house, David." "Mom, you're being paranoid. This kind of behavior is exactly why Sarah and I are worried about you living alone." "Living alone?" He said it like a privilege that could be revoked. "I changed the locks anyway. New deadbolts, new door handles. For one night, I felt secure. The next morning, fresh scratches marked my back door lock. Someone had tried to force entry. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, confirmed my fears that afternoon. I saw a car in your driveway around midnight. Looked like your son-in-law's car. Everything okay?" Everything was not okay, but I filed the information away with my growing evidence. That weekend, Tommy came to stay while his parents worked through their difficulties. Sunday evening, he sat at my kitchen table with his tablet, editing footage for a school project. I made hot chocolate and watched him scroll through dark footage. Empty yards, swaying trees. Then his finger stopped. "Wait, what's that?" A figure moved across the frame, using a key at my front door. David's profile was unmistakable. The timestamp showed 2:17 a.m. My blood turned to ice as I watched my son-in-law enter my house while I slept upstairs. "Grandma," Tommy whispered, "I think you need to see this video. The video changed everything, but watching your son-in-law violate your home in high definition isn't evidence you can take to family dinner. I needed help, real help." Monday morning, I called Margaret Chen, the estate lawyer who'd helped me with my husband's will 6 years ago. Her voice was warm, professional, safe when I explained my situation. "Mrs. Peterson, how can I help you today?" I told her everything: the missing jewelry, the unauthorized bank transfers, the video of David entering my house at 2 a.m. My words tumbled out faster than I'd spoken them to anyone in months. Margaret listened without interrupting. When I finished, her response was immediate and reassuring. "Mrs. Peterson, what you're describing is elder financial abuse. It's a crime, and it's more common than you might think." Elder financial abuse. Having a name for it felt like being handed a weapon. "What you've experienced fits a very specific pattern," she continued. "Gradual isolation from financial control, gaslighting about memory issues, unauthorized access to accounts, theft disguised as family help. The video evidence is extremely valuable. What should I do?" "First, document everything. Every transaction, every missing item, every time someone entered your house without permission. Second, we need to secure your finances immediately. Third, we consider involving law enforcement. Law enforcement." The words made my hands shake. "Is that really necessary?" Mrs. Peterson, in the past 6 months, how much money and property has gone missing? I'd been tracking it meticulously in my notebook. Every withdrawal, every missing item, every unexplained charge. Around $4,000 in cash withdrawals and transfers. $1,700 in jewelry. maybe more I haven't discovered yet. That's felony-level theft, and breaking into someone's home, even with a key, can constitute criminal trespass when done without permission for illegal purposes. My kitchen felt different suddenly, not like the scene of my humiliation, but like the place where I'd started fighting back. Margaret scheduled an appointment for Wednesday morning. Don't tell anyone about our meeting. And Mrs. Peterson? Start acting normal around your son-in-law. If he suspects you're building a case, he might escalate or destroy evidence. Normal, like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just discovered that my family had been treating me like a personal ATM for months. Tuesday, I drove to my bank and sat across from Patricia Collins, the branch manager I'd known for 8 years. Her concern was immediate when I explained my situation. Patricia, I need to review every transaction on my accounts for the past 6 months. Everything. And I need to change all my access information. Is there a problem with your accounts, Mrs. Peterson? Someone's been stealing from me. I need to document exactly how much and when. Patricia printed 73 pages of bank records. Checking account, savings account, credit card statements. We sat in her office and went through every line, highlighting suspicious transactions with yellow marker. 47 unauthorized transactions in 6 months. ATM withdrawals. At times I was asleep. Online transfers I never made. Credit card purchases at stores I'd never visited. A clear pattern emerged. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Testing to see how much he could take before I noticed. Mrs. Peterson, these definitely look suspicious. The timing patterns suggest someone other than you was making these transactions. What's the total damage? Patricia's calculator clicked steadily. $4,270 in questionable transactions, not including any cash you might have had stolen from your wallet. $4,000. The number hit like a physical blow. I'd like to file a fraud report. Of course, but I have to warn you, if this involves a family member, the investigation might get complicated. Complicated how? Well, if he had your permission to access your accounts initially, it becomes harder to prove theft. Banks often see these situations as family disputes rather than crimes. I thought about David's helpful smile when he'd first suggested managing my online banking. How eagerly I'd handed over my passwords. How grateful I'd felt for his assistance. What if I have video evidence of him entering my house without permission to access my computer? Patricia's demeanor shifted completely. Video evidence changes everything. That shows clear intent and unauthorized access. I left the bank with new account numbers, new passwords, new debit cards. More importantly, I left with official fraud reports and a paper trail that proved the theft. The old accounts would be monitored. If David tried to access them, the bank would track every attempt. That afternoon, I called my insurance company about the stolen jewelry. Filed a police report over the phone for the missing items. The officer took down every detail with professional thoroughness. Ma'am, do you suspect someone specific? My son-in-law. I have video evidence of him entering my house without permission. We'll need to see that video. Can you bring it to the station? Tomorrow morning. Tuesday night, I barely slept. Not from fear this time, but from anticipation. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control, like I was finally fighting back instead of just enduring. Wednesday morning, I met Margaret Chen in her downtown office. Her assistant brought coffee while Margaret reviewed the bank statements I'd printed. "This is excellent documentation," she said, spreading the papers across her conference table. "The pattern is clear, the amounts are substantial, and the timing correlates with your security concerns. What happens next? We have several options. Civil lawsuit to recover the stolen money. criminal charges for theft and possibly breaking and entering, restraining order to keep him away from your property, or we try to resolve this within the family first. I don't want to destroy my daughter's marriage. Margaret's expression softened with understanding. Mrs. Peterson, I understand the impulse to protect your family, but your daughter's husband has been systematically stealing from you for months. He's violated your home, your trust, and your financial security. This isn't a family disagreement. It's a crime. She was right. But the thought of Sarah's face when she found out made my chest hurt. What if we give him a chance to make it right? Return the money? Stay away from my house? We can try that approach first. But if he refuses or continues the behavior, we proceed with criminal charges. And Mrs. Peterson, we do this quietly. You continue your normal routine while we gather additional evidence and prepare our case. I left Margaret's office with a plan: continue documenting everything, install security cameras around my house, change my will to include specific protection against financial abuse. Most importantly, act like nothing had changed. That afternoon, I called Sarah with carefully rehearsed casualness. Hi, honey. I was thinking about taking a little trip. Maybe visit Aunt Linda in Portland for a week or two. That sounds nice, Mom. You haven't traveled in ages. Would you mind keeping an eye on the house while I'm gone? Of course. David and I can swing by every few days. Perfect. If David was going to continue his midnight visits, I wanted it on camera. Professional security cameras that would hold up in court. I booked a room at the Hilton downtown. Close enough to monitor the situation, far enough to be safe. The security company could install the cameras while I was out of town. Thursday morning, I packed a suitcase and drove to my hotel. From my room on the 7th floor, I called Advanced Security Systems. I need a complete system installed today: front door, back door, all windows on the ground floor, and motion sensors in the living room and kitchen. That's quite extensive, ma'am. Any particular reason? Someone's been breaking into my house. I need evidence. We can have a team there in 2 hours. Friday evening, my phone buzzed with the first motion detector alert. Front door camera activated. I logged into the security app from my hotel room and watched David use his old key on my front door. He tried it 3 times, growing more frustrated with each failed attempt. Then he walked around to the back door and tried to force it with what looked like a screwdriver. All captured in crystal clear HD video, with timestamps, with his face clearly visible in infrared light. I had him. From my hotel room, I watched David destroy himself one security camera alert at a time. The first attempt came Saturday night. Motion sensor triggered at 11:43 p.m. I opened the app on my phone and watched him approach my front door with confident steps. He still thought he had accesses. Still thought I was the confused old woman he could gaslight into submission. He tried his key 4 times before realizing the locks had changed. I took screenshots of every frame, date stamps, time stamps, clear facial identification. The evidence was building systematically, just like Margaret had advised. Sunday morning brought a phone call that tested my acting skills. Mom, I stopped by your house last night to check on things, David said, his voice carefully searching for information. I think someone changed your locks. The key doesn't work. Oh, you tried to get in? I asked, matching his casual tone. I had the locks changed before I left for Portland. Security upgrade. Mrs. Chen has the spare key if there's an emergency. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor? She offered to keep an eye on the place. Such a nice woman. Silence stretched across the connection. I could practically hear him recalculating his next move. When are you coming home? Not sure yet. I'm enjoying the change of scenery. Might stay another week or 2. Another pause. Longer this time. Mom, is everything okay? You sound different. Different. Because I wasn't scared anymore. Because I had help now. Because I was finally fighting back. I'm fine, honey. Just relaxing. I should let you go. Give Sarah my love. I hung up before he could ask more questions. Before my voice could betray the satisfaction I felt watching him panic. Monday brought the bank fraud investigation results. Patricia Collins called with an update that made my hands tremble with vindication. Mrs. Peterson, our investigators found something very interesting. Those unauthorized transactions? They were all made using a secondary device that was registered to your account last year. What kind of device? A smartphone. The registration shows it was added in March when someone called claiming to be you and requesting mobile banking access for a new phone. March, right after David had helped me set up online banking. Right when my paper statements stopped coming. Do you have the phone number associated with that device? I can't give you the specific number due to privacy regulations, but I can tell you it doesn't match any phone number on your account profile. So someone pretended to be me to get mobile access to my accounts? That's exactly what it looks like. The good news is this makes the fraud case much stronger. The bad news is someone's had unauthorized access to your accounts for 8 months. 8 months. While I'd been questioning my own memory, doubting my own perceptions, David had been treating my bank account like his personal piggy bank. We've flagged the secondary device and changed all your security protocols, Patricia continued. If anyone tries to access your accounts from that phone again, we'll know immediately and can track the attempt in real time. How long before you have enough evidence for prosecution? The detective assigned to your case says we're almost there. They just need one more clear attempt at unauthorized access to make the criminal case airtight. I hung up and immediately called Margaret Chen with the update. Mrs. Peterson, this is excellent news. Identity theft, unauthorized account access, systematic financial abuse. Combined with your video evidence, we have multiple felony charges building. What's the next step? We wait for him to make another move. From your hotel room, you're completely safe, and every action he takes just strengthens our case. The bank is monitoring. The security cameras are recording. You've done everything right. Tuesday night delivered exactly what we needed. Motion alert, 2:17 a.m. The same time Tommy's original video had captured David's intrusion. I watched him approach my house with what looked like professional lockpicking tools. This wasn't desperation anymore. This was escalation. This was someone who'd moved from opportunistic theft to premeditated breaking and entering. He spent 43 minutes working on my back door. The infrared camera captured every detail: his face, his tools, his methodical attempts to defeat the new deadbolt. When frustration made him careless, he used his phone's flashlight, illuminating himself perfectly for the camera. At 3:01 a.m., he gave up and left. I had video evidence of attempted burglary, 43 minutes of criminal intent recorded in high definition. Wednesday morning brought another call from the bank that confirmed David's escalating desperation. Mrs. Peterson, someone attempted to access your old checking account from that secondary device at 3:15 a.m. last night. 15 minutes after he couldn't get into my house. Exactly. Multiple failed login attempts. Then they tried calling our customer service line claiming to be you, requesting emergency password reset. What did customer service do? Our representative followed protocol for potential fraud, asked security questions that only you would know. The caller hung up after the third failed question. David was getting desperate. The locked house, the changed banking passwords, the severed access to my financial life. He was losing control, and desperate people make mistakes. Thursday afternoon, Margaret Chen called with news that made my heart race with anticipation and anxiety. Mrs. Peterson, I've been in contact with Detective Rodriguez from the County Fraud Division. She's reviewed all your documentation and she's ready to move forward with charges. What kind of charges? Identity theft, bank fraud, elder abuse, criminal trespass, and attempted burglary. Based on the amounts involved and the pattern of behavior, we're looking at multiple felony counts. Multiple felonies. The words felt surreal. David, who'd sat at my dinner table explaining compound interest. David, who'd helped me set up online banking with such a helpful smile. David, who was facing serious prison time. The detective wants to meet with you Friday to go over the evidence and discuss next steps. What about Sarah? What about my daughter? Margaret's voice was gentle but firm. Mrs. Peterson, Sarah is going to have to face the truth about her husband. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect yourself and make sure this doesn't happen to other elderly people in your family or community. Friday morning, I sat in Detective Rodriguez's office at the county courthouse. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner that inspired confidence. Mrs. Peterson, I've seen a lot of elder abuse cases. This one is textbook, but with unusually good documentation. Most victims don't have video evidence and detailed financial records. I got lucky with my grandson's school project. No, you got smart. You recognized what was happening and took action to document it. A lot of people in your situation blame themselves or try to handle it within the family. She spread photos across her desk. Screenshots from my security cameras. David trying to pick my lock. David forcing my back door. David's face clearly visible in infrared. Timestamp after timestamp proving his systematic violation of my home. These images, combined with the bank fraud evidence, give us everything we need for prosecution. What happens next? We execute a warrant for his arrest, probably early next week. I wanted to give you advance warning because this is going to impact your family significantly. My hands felt cold despite the warm office. Will Sarah have to know everything? She'll know when he's arrested. The charges will be public record. Mrs. Peterson, I understand this is difficult, but your son-in-law is a criminal. He's been systematically abusing you for months, and there's no reason to think he would have stopped. She was right. The video evidence proved that David had escalated when I'd tried to protect myself. Changed locks led to attempted break-ins. Blocked bank access led to impersonation attempts. What would he have tried next? I thought about Tommy, sweet 12-year-old Tommy, who'd accidentally captured the truth. What kind of man was David raising him to become? Detective Rodriguez, I want to press charges. I'm glad to hear that. We'll execute the warrant Monday morning. I recommend you stay away from your house until after the arrest. Things might get complicated with your family for a while. I left the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in months. Not happy, exactly, but free. Saturday night, I ordered room service and watched David make his final mistake. The motion alert came at 1:45 a.m. This time, he brought a crowbar. I watched him pry at my back door until the frame splintered. Watched him step inside my kitchen like he owned it. Watched him go straight to my laptop on the counter, trying to access the financial accounts that were no longer under his control. The indoor cameras captured everything. David rifling through my mail, opening my filing cabinet, attempting to access my computer with growing frustration when none of his old passwords worked. 26 minutes of criminal trespass and attempted theft, all in high definition. I called Detective Rodriguez's emergency line. "We have him in the act," she said after I'd described what the cameras captured. "Breaking and entering, attempted computer fraud, destruction of property. We're moving the arrest up to tomorrow morning." Tomorrow's Sunday. Criminals don't take weekends off, Mrs. Peterson. Neither do we. I hung up and watched David lock my splintered back door behind him, trying to hide the evidence of his break-in. He had no idea he'd just sealed his own fate. In 18 hours, my nightmare would become his. Sunday morning at 7:43 a.m., my phone rang. "Mrs. Peterson, this is Detective Rodriguez. We have David Morrison in custody." The words hit like cold water, relief and terror in equal measure. How did it go? Smoothly, no incident. The arraignment is Tuesday morning. I drove home to survey the damage. My back door hung crooked on broken hinges. David's desperation had left scars all over my house, but seeing the destruction felt like victory. Physical proof that I wasn't confused. My phone rang at 10:15. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" Sarah's voice was raw, hysterical. "The police arrested David. They're saying he stole from you." "Sarah, I need you to come over. Bring Tommy. There are things you need to see." An hour later, she stood in my kitchen with Tommy beside her. Her face was pale, hands shaking. "Mom, the police said David's been stealing money from you. That can't be true." I looked at Tommy, sweet, innocent Tommy who'd accidentally saved me. "Tommy, remember the video you showed me? The one where you filmed Uncle David?" Sarah's head snapped toward her son. "What video?" Tommy's voice was small. "I was filming for my school project. I caught Uncle David on camera." "Show your mother," I said gently. Sarah watched her husband use my key at 2:17 a.m., watched him check if I was breathing, watched him photograph my credit cards and bank statements. 23 minutes of systematic violation. Her face went through every emotion: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. "This can't be real," she whispered. I showed her the security footage from the past week. David picking my locks. David breaking my door with a crowbar. "He's been stealing from me for 8 months, Sarah. $4,000 from my bank accounts, my jewelry, my sense of safety." Sarah sank into my kitchen chair. "I don't understand. We have money. David has a good job." "Does he? When's the last time you saw his pay stubs?" Her face crumpled. "He handles all our finances." Says I'm not good with numbers. The same manipulation, the same control. "Sarah, have you noticed money missing from your accounts? Credit cards charged for things you didn't buy?" She was quiet for a long time. Tommy sat between us, watching his mother's world fall apart. Sometimes our credit card bills seemed high, but David always explained it. Business expenses, things I didn't understand. "When's the last time you actually saw your bank statements?" "David handles all that online. He says it's easier, just like he'd handled mine." My doorbell rang. Detective Rodriguez stood on my front porch with another officer. "Mrs. Peterson, sorry to interrupt. We need additional evidence." "Is this your daughter?" "Sarah Morrison," Sarah said. "David's wife. What are the charges?" "Identity theft, elder financial abuse, bank fraud, criminal trespass, breaking and entering, destruction of property." Sarah's knees buckled. Tommy caught her arm. "Ma'am, your mother's evidence is some of the clearest documentation of elder abuse I've seen in 15 years. What does this mean for David?" 2 to 5 years in state prison, depending on plea bargain." Sarah turned to me, eyes red. "Mom, why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried, but every time I mentioned missing money, David convinced you I was confused. You started looking at me like I was losing my mind. I thought you were getting older. I thought maybe you needed help. I needed protection, honey, from him." Detective Rodriguez stepped forward. "Mrs. Morrison, it's possible your husband was stealing from your family accounts as well." Sarah's face went white. The next hour was brutal. Detective Rodriguez walked Sarah through the same questions. "When did you last see bank statements? Who has access to accounts?" With each question, Sarah's composure cracked more. "He said the mortgage payment went up. that insurance premiums increased, that Tommy's school expenses were higher. When's the last time you verified any of those explanations? I trusted him. He's my husband. 2 hours later, I sat across from David in a gray room at the county jail. He looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit, defeated. His public defender spoke first. Mr. Morrison would like to make a statement. David's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry, Mom. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? At first, just small amounts. Money you wouldn't miss. I had debts from before Sarah and I married. I thought I could borrow temporarily and pay it back. And my jewelry? I pawned it. I have the receipts. I was going to buy it all back when my situation improved. Your situation? I lost my job 6 months ago. I've been pretending to go to work every day. I couldn't tell Sarah. The truth was smaller and sadder than I'd expected. Not criminal mastermind, just weak man making increasingly desperate choices. David, you violated my home. You made me think I was losing my mind. I know, I got in so deep, and you have so much, and we were struggling, and I thought, you thought I wouldn't notice. I thought I could fix everything before anyone got hurt. But people were hurt. Sarah was crying. Tommy was scared. I had a broken door and violated safety. The prosecutor wants 5 years, his lawyer said. With full confession and restitution, we might get 2 years suspended, probation, and financial recovery. I want all my money back, every penny. I want my jewelry returned. I want David to have no access to my home, my accounts, or my personal information ever again. Agreed, the lawyer said quickly. David nodded. Mom, I really am sorry. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke. I left the jail feeling empty. Not triumphant, just tired. Detective Rodriguez walked me to my car. Mrs. Peterson, you did the right thing. Men like David Morrison don't stop escalating unless someone stops them. What happens now? He pleads guilty Tuesday morning. Full confession, financial restitution, 2 years probation. Permanent restraining order keeping him away from your property. I drove home to my broken door and my splintered life, but I was free. Tuesday morning, I sat in Judge Martinez's courtroom and watched David plead guilty to 6 felony counts. How do you plead to the charge of identity theft in the 1st degree? Guilty, Your Honor. How do you plead to the charge of elder financial abuse? Guilty, Your Honor. Each guilty felt like a small piece of my dignity being returned. The judge sentenced him to 2 years suspended, 5 years probation, complete financial restitution, and a permanent restraining order. David would be monitored, his finances tracked, his movements restricted. Sarah sat 3 rows behind me. We hadn't spoken since Sunday. After the hearing, she approached me in the courthouse hallway. Her eyes were hollow, her face pale from 3 days of discovering the truth about her marriage. Mom, I need you to know something. You were right about our accounts. My stomach dropped. What did you find? David's been stealing from us for over a year. $12,000 moved from our joint savings to accounts I didn't know existed. Credit cards taken out in my name. Our mortgage is 3 months behind. $12,000 from his own family. The scope of David's deception kept expanding. Sarah, honey. I found gambling websites in his browser history. Online poker, sports betting, some casino app where he'd lost thousands of dollars. That's where our money went. That's where your money went. What are you going to do? I filed for divorce yesterday. Tommy and I moved back to my old apartment. The one I kept after we got married but never sold. She looked older suddenly, worn down by the weight of discovering that her marriage had been built on systematic lies. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, Mom. I'm sorry I let him convince me you were confused. You loved him. You trusted him. That's not something to apologize for. But I chose him over you. When you tried to tell me something was wrong, I chose to believe his version instead of yours. We stood in the courthouse hallway, two women who'd both been betrayed by the same man. 2 generations learning the same hard lesson about trust and manipulation. Sarah, I need you to understand something. I didn't press charges to destroy your marriage. I pressed charges because David was destroying himself, and he was going to take all of us down with him. I know that now. The detective showed me everything. The video evidence, the bank records, the timeline of theft. He's been lying to me about everything for months. What does Tommy know? Enough. He knows his father made bad choices and has to face consequences. He knows we're going to be okay without him. Tommy. Sweet 12-year-old Tommy, who'd accidentally saved us all with his school project. How is he handling this? Better than I expected. He said something yesterday that broke my heart and made me proud at the same time. He said he was glad you were brave enough to tell the truth. We walked to the parking garage together, the first time we'd been alone without tension in months. Mom, I have a favor to ask. I know things are complicated now, but Tommy would like to keep visiting you. He feels like he helped solve a mystery, and he wants to make sure you're safe. Of course he can visit. He's my grandson. None of this changes that. And I was hoping maybe we could work on rebuilding. You and me. I know I have a lot to make up for. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She'd lost weight, dark circles under her eyes. The stress of discovering her husband's double life had aged her years in just days. But she was here. She was asking for a second chance. Sarah, I'd like that, but things are going to be different now. Different how? I'm not going back to the way things were. I'm not going back to being the sweet, accommodating mother who hands over passwords and house keys and never questions anything. I wouldn't expect you to. I mean it. No more financial help without clear written agreements. No more house access without explicit permission. No more making decisions about my life without consulting me first. Sarah nodded seriously. Those sound like reasonable boundaries. And if you ever start looking at me like I'm confused or incompetent again, I'm going to call you on it immediately. Fair enough. We reached my car, the same blue Honda I'd driven to the bank weeks ago when I'd first started documenting David's theft. Mom, can I ask you something? How did you know to start investigating? What made you realize David was stealing instead of just accepting his explanations? The night I found my laptop open on the kitchen table, my bank account displayed. Someone had been using my computer while I slept 10 feet away. That's when I knew for certain that this wasn't confusion or memory loss. This was violation. But you suspected before that? For months, missing money, moved objects, strange sounds at night. But every time I mentioned it, David convinced me I was imagining things. You helped him do that. Sarah's face crumpled slightly. I reinforced his narrative that you were getting confused. I'm so sorry. You trusted your husband. That's normal. But I should have trusted myself more. We stood beside my car in the dim parking garage. 2 generations of women who'd learned hard lessons about trust, boundaries, and the difference between love and control. Sarah, I want you to promise me something. What? If you ever marry again, keep your own bank account, keep your own credit cards, keep your own financial identity. Love doesn't mean surrendering your economic independence. I promise. And teach Tommy that. Teach him that taking care of someone doesn't mean controlling them. That family means protection, not exploitation. I will. One more thing, I'm changing my will, adding specific clauses about elder abuse protection. If anyone tries to pressure me financially or questions my mental capacity, to influence my financial decisions, they're automatically disinherited. Sarah's eyes widened. That's smart. You should protect yourself. Margaret Chen suggested it. She says it's becoming standard practice for people who've experienced financial abuse. I got in my car and rolled down the window. Sarah, bring Tommy by this weekend. I want to show him the new security system. And I want to cook him dinner. Real dinner. Not the frozen meals I've been surviving on. He'd love that. And Sarah, we're going to be okay. All of us. It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay. She nodded, tears in her eyes, but hope in her voice. I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey, but love with boundaries now. Love with respect. I drove home to my house with the new locks and the new security system and the new rules about who could cross my threshold. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. Not because I'd won some victory over David, but because I'd finally learned the difference between being loving and being a victim. Love doesn't require surrendering your safety. Family doesn't mean accepting abuse. And at 72 years old, I was finally learning to put my own well-being first. The next morning, I woke to silence. Not the anxious silence of wondering if someone had been in my house during the night, but the peaceful silence of knowing my space was truly my own. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, looking at the new security panel on the wall. Motion sensors armed, door contacts secured. For the first time in months, I'd slept through the night. The broken back door had been replaced with something stronger. Double deadbolt, reinforced frame. But the best security was the simplest. I'd stopped being ashamed of protecting myself. Saturday afternoon, Tommy knocked on my front door with his backpack and a smile that reminded me why all of this had been worth it. Grandma, can you help me with my computer science project? What are you working on? Security cameras and motion detection. My teacher says I have real-world experience now. We spent the afternoon monitoring my security feeds. Tommy explained how the motion sensors worked, how the cameras captured clear images in darkness. You're better at this technology stuff than I thought, I told him. Mom says you're tougher than anyone thought. Sarah joined us for dinner. Real dinner this time, pot roast and vegetables, not frozen meals. She brought groceries and helped me cook, moving around my kitchen with careful respect for our new boundaries. How are you adjusting to the apartment? I asked. It's smaller than the house, but it feels safer. David's restitution payments help, and we'll recover what he stole. It's going to take time, but we'll be fine. Tommy visits every weekend now. Sarah calls twice a week to check in, not to manage me. Mrs. Chen and I have coffee every Tuesday morning. The house feels different now, not because of the security system, but because I'm different. I'm not the sweet, accommodating mother who hands over passwords and never questions anything. At 72 years old, I've finally learned that love with boundaries is stronger than love without them. 6 months later, I received a letter from Detective Rodriguez. David had completed his restitution payments. Every penny returned with interest. My jewelry recovered from 3 pawn shops across the city, but the real recovery wasn't financial. Yesterday, my neighbor Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door. Her hands shook as she explained that money had been disappearing from her accounts. Her son-in-law handled her banking now, said it was easier that way. I invited her in for coffee and showed her my notebook, the one where I'd tracked every suspicious transaction, every red flag I'd ignored for too long. You don't have to accept this, I told her. You have options. Mrs. Patterson left with Margaret Chen's business card and a plan to document everything. She also left with something I'd wished I'd had months earlier, the knowledge that she wasn't going crazy. Tommy's camera project won first place at the school science fair. Sarah and I have dinner every Sunday now. We talk about the future more than the past. The house feels safe again. Not just because of the security system, but because I finally learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who hurt you most. But that doesn't mean you have to let them. If my story resonated with you, or if you've experienced something similar, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this helped you feel less alone, please share it with someone who might need it too.